All right. Howdy, class.
Howdy.
Today I'm going to be reading a new story to you guys. Y'all are about to learn about tall tales. Does anybody know what a tall tale is? What's a tall tale?
It's like something that really didn't happen, but it's like the teachers or something.
Yes, yes, that is the most important part of a tall tale. All stories have plots, right? They all have characters and a setting. But what makes a tall tale stand out is that exaggeration that you're talking about, where somebody has a superhuman power or some kind of extra strength, or they did something that usually humans wouldn't be able to do. And there's usually always a moral of the story. Does anybody know what a moral is? What's a moral?
What the story is trying to teach you and what's it really about.
Right. Morals are something that you learn as a person, things that we can benefit from to make us better people and better to our neighbors. All right, y'all ready?
Yeah.
All right. Thunder Rose by Geraldine Nolan. Okay. What do y'all think we can infer about this story?
The cowboys. Cowgirl.
It's a cowgirl.
It's a cowgirl.
Yeah.
What's wrong there?
So where do you think that the setting of this story would be?
It's a Wild West.
The Wild West. All right. Rose was the first child born free and easy to Jackson and Millicent McGruder. I recall most vividly the night that she came into this world. Hailing rain, flashing lightning, and booming thunder pounded the door, inviting themselves in for the blessed event. Taking in her first breath of life, the infant did not cry out. Rather, she sat up and looked around. She took hold of that lightning, rolled it into a ball, and set it above her shoulder, while the thunder echoed over the other. They say this just accentuated the fact that the child had the power of thunder and lightning coursing through her veins. She's going to grow up to be good and strong, all right, Doc Holliday said. The child turned to the good doctor with a thoughtful glance and replied, I reckon I want to do more than that. Thank you very kindly. Shifting her gaze to the two loving lights shining on her, which were her ma and pa, she remarked, much obliged to you both for this chance to make my way into the world. Then she announced to no one in particular, I'm right partial to the name Rose. So much in love with this gift of their lives, her ma and pa hovered over her in a watchful splendor. Overcome with that love, they lifted their voices in song, an old song and melody so sweet and true, a lullaby passed down from the ages, echoing silence the beginning of time. There is a music ringing so sweetly in my ears, the newborn exclaimed. It's giving me a fortunate feeling rumbling deep in the pit of me. I'll register it here at the bullseye set in the center of my heart and see what I can do with it one day. Rose snored plenty up that first night, breathing on her own, rattling the rafters on the roof, right along with that booming thunder. There was nothing quiet about her slumber. She seemed determined to be just as forceful as that storm. With the thunder and lightning keeping watch over the rest of the night, her ma and pa just took to calling her Thunder Rose. So she balled up that thunder, she put it inside of her, and she's keeping it safe. Do y'all know any newborns that can talk like Thunder Rose? Mine can't. The next morning, when the sun was high yellow in the billowy blue sky, Rose woke up hungry as a bear in spring, but not the least bit ornery. Minding her manners, she politely thanked her ma for the milk, but it was not enough to quench her hungry thirst. Rose preferred instead to drink her milk straight from the cow. Her ma was right grateful to have such a resourceful child. No other newborn had the utter strength to lift a whole cow clear over her head and almost drink it dry. In a moment's time, Rose did, and quite daintily so. She was as pretty as a picture, had the sweetest disposition. But don't let yourself be misled. That child was full of lightning and thunder. Out on that paper bag brown, dusty dry, wide open space, Rose often was found humming a sweet little tune as she did her chores. And true to her word, Rose did more than grow good and strong. The 2-year-old became quite curious about the pile of scrap iron lying next to the barn. Rose took a good-sized piece, stretched it here, bent and twisted it there, and constructed a thunderbolt as black as pitch to punctuate her name. She called it coal, and wherever she went, coal was always by her side. Noticing how skilled Rose was with the metal, her pa made sure there was an extra supply of it always around. At the age of 5, Rose did a commendable job of staking the fence without a bit of help. During her 8th and 9th years, Rose assembled some iron beams together with the wood blocks that she used to play with and constructed a building tall enough to scrape the sky, always humming as she worked. No, this is coal. This is her. You know how some people walk around with a big stick? Well, she made her big stick out of iron. By the time she turned 12, Rose had perfected her metal bending practices. She delicately shaped alphabet letters to help the young ones learn to read. For his birthday, Rose presented her pa with a branding iron, a circle with a big MAC for Magruder in the middle. Just in time, too, because a herd of quick-tempered longhorn steer was stampeding its way up from the Rio Grande. They were plowing a path straight toward her front door. Rose performed an eye-catching wonder, the likes of which was something to see. Running lightning fast toward the herd, using coal for support, Rose vaulted into the air and landed on the back of the biggest lead steer like he was a merry-go-round pony. Grabbing a horn in each hand, Rose twisted that varmint to a complete halt. It was just enough to restrain that top bull and the rest of the herd. But I believe what touched that critter's heart was when Rose began humming her little tune. That cantankerous ton of beef was restless no more. He became as playful as a kitten and even tried to purr. Rose named him Tater on account of his favorite vegetable. Hearing Rose's lullaby put that considerable creature to sleep was the sweetest thing I had witnessed in a long, long time. After the dust had settled, Ma and Pa counted 2,700 head of cattle, after they had added in the 500 they already had. Using the scrap iron, Rose had to add a new section to the bullpen to hold them all. Can y'all make predictions of what she's going to do to hold in all those cattle?
Use metals.
What kind of metal do you think she's going to use? What kind of fence is made out of the metal?
Scrap.
Chain link.
We're going to find out.
The kind of
Electric. Barbed wire.
Yeah. What did you do to the wire, Rose? Ma asked, surprised and pleased at her daughter's latest creation.
Barbed wire.
Oh, that, she said. While I was staking the fence, Pa asked me to keep little Barbara J company. That little twisty patter seemed to make the baby laugh. So I like to think of it as Barbara's wire. That was right clever of you to be so entertaining to the little one like that, her mama said. Rose just blushed. Over the years, that twisty wire caught on, and folks just called it barbed wire. Rose and her pa spent the whole next day sorting the animals that had not been branded. One day soon, before the cold weather gets in, she told her pa, I'll have to get this herd up to the Chisholm Trail to market in Abilene. I suspect Tater is the right kind of horse for that long drive northward. So she's about to put a saddle on Tater. Ride him like a horse.
Might work.
On Rose's first trip to Abilene, while right outside of Caldwell, that irascible, full of outrage and ire, outlaw Jesse Baines and his gang of desperados tried to wrestle that herd away from Rose. Using the spare metal rods she always carried with her, Rose lassoed those hot-tempered hooligans up good and tight, and she dropped them all off to jail, tied up in a nice, neat iron bow. It wasn't any trouble at all, she told Sheriff Weaver. Somebody had to put a stop to their thieving ways. But that wasn't the only thieving going on. The mighty sun was draining the moisture out of every living thing it touched. Even the rocks were crying out. Those clouds stood by and watched it all happen, and they weren't even trying to be helpful. So what does she need the clouds to do?
Rain.
That she needs them to rain. Her cows need water. Why, the air had turned so dry and sour, time seemed to all but stand still, and there was not a drop of water in sight. Steer will not move without water, and that was making the bulls mad, real mad. And when a bull gets angry, it's like a disease that's catching, making the rest of the herd mad too. And Tater was looking parched and mighty thirsty. I've got to do something about this, Rose declared, stretching out several iron rods lasso fashion, then launching Cole high into the air. Rose hoped she could get the heavens to yield forth. She caught hold of a mass of clouds and squeezed them hard, real hard, all the while humming her song. Gentle rain began to fall, but anyone looking could see there was not enough moisture to refresh even 2 ants, let alone a herd of wild cows. So she lassoed Cole, her iron rod, all the way up into the sky.
That's why it's friction.
Suddenly, a rotating column of air came whirling and swirling around, picking up everything in its path. It sneaked up on Rose. Whoa there now, hold just on a minute, Rose called out to the storm. Tater was helpless to do anything about that sort of wind. Those meddlesome clouds caused it. They didn't take kindly to someone telling them what to do, and they were set on creating a righteous rampage all on their own. Oh, this riled Rose so much, she became the only 2-legged temptress to walk the western plains. You don't know who you're fooling with, Rose called out to the storm. Her eyes flashed lightning. She bit down and gashed thunder from her teeth. I don't know why any would want to mess with a pretty young woman who had the power of thunder and lightning coursing through her veins. But pity for them, because the clouds did. Rose reached for her iron rod, but there was only one piece left. She did not know which way to turn. She knew Cole was alone. Cole alone was not enough to do the job right. Unarmed against her own growing thirst and the might of the elements, Rose felt weighted down. Then that churning column split, And now there were two. They were coming at her from opposite directions. Rose had some fast thinking to do. Never being one to bow down under pressure, she considered her options, for she was not sure how all this would all come out in the end. It's not going to be good if she can't stop it. To tear their town down. Is this the fork in the road with which I have my final supper? Will this be my first and last ride of the roundup? She quieted herself in the depths of her heart. Her contemplations brought her little relief as she witnessed the merciless and cataclysmic efforts of a windstorm bent on her disaster. When the winds joined hands and cranked and churned a path heading straight toward her, calmly Rose spoke out loud to the storm as she stood alone to face the rapid ruin, the multiplying devastation. I could ride at least one of you out to the end of time, but I've got this fortunate feeling rumbling deep in the pit of me, and I see what I'm going to do with it this day. The winds belted at a rumbling pitch. Rose squarely faced that storm. Come and join me, winds. She opened up her arms wide as if to embrace the torrent. She opened her mouth as if she were planning to take a good, long drink. But from deep inside her, she heard a melody so real and sweet and true. And when she lifted her heart, she unleashed her song of thunder. And it was a sight to see. Rose making thunder and lightning rise and fall to the ground at her command and at the sound of her song. Oh, how her voice rang out so clear, real, and true. It rang from the mountaintops. It filled up the valleys, and it flowed like a healing river in the breathing air around her. So when she was a little baby and she stored it deep inside her, saved it for a day, today was that day. Those tornadoes, calmed by her song, stopped their churning masses and raged no more. And gentle as a baby's bath, a soft, drenching, and soaking rain fell. And Rose realized that by reaching into her own heart and bringing forth the music that was there, she had even touched the hearts of the clouds. The stories of Rose's amazing abilities spread like wildfire, far and wide. And as sure as thunder follows lightning, and the sun follows rain, whenever you see a spark of light flash across a heavy steel gray sky, listen to the sound of the thunder, and think of Thunder Rose and her song, that mighty, mighty song, pressing on the bullseye that was set at the center of her heart. The end. So what do y'all think?
Great story.
Yeah, it was pretty good, huh? Y'all.